what I usually have here, I'm just going to show you one of my favorite snacks to have. This is kind of a snack that I usually have after lunch, pre-dinner, typically like around 4 o'clock. So it's going to be yogurt. Right now I'm going with the Fage full fat total yogurt. I want to get some good probiotics into my day. And since I didn't have my fermented vegetables or my kombucha today, I haven't really had anything in the way of probiotics except for my my vitamin that I had that already has probiotics in it. Now, I definitely recommend that you pick an organic yogurt if you can. This is the best that I have available for me, so this is what I have to go with here in Malta. But if I, for example, if I had a Whole Foods or something to go to, I would probably go for coconut milk yogurt or something like sheep's milk or goat's milk yogurt. Not soy. I don't want to have a soy yogurt. But this is good. This is really the only, besides butter, this is kind of the only dairy that I eat and that I recommend. So fermented dairy is fine, but not cow's milk or cheese or anything like that. So I'm just going to make a bowl of this. And then on top, I'm going to have a green apple. I've washed this already. I'm just going to chop it up. I like green apples because they're actually not as sweet as normal apples are. But even in saying that, I won't have the whole apple. I'm actually only going to have a half of an apple. I feel like a whole apple, you're actually getting into the realm of having too much sugar. It's amazing how quickly it adds up, all the sugar. I'm just going to do a rough chop on these apples. Nothing fancy. Also, can you see as the day goes on, the braid gets bigger and messier. Organic vegetables, organic apples, organic fruit, wherever possible, choose organic. Wherever possible, choose local, seasonal. Like I said, I live on a small island, so sometimes I'm limited by the things. But even here, if I can do it here, then you can definitely do it where you're at. So on top, I'm going to decorate this with some pumpkin seeds. Really good for hormones. You know, I mean, if you watch throughout the day of everything that I've eaten, this whole recipe and the whole day has been constructed to make sure that everything that I eat is supporting my hormones. And if you're trying to have a baby, for example, that everything is supporting good, healthy eggs and good fertility. So we've got pecans. Try not to eat peanuts. Peanuts are no bueno. And I've got some, they call these American walnut halves. I wonder why. I guess just because they're from the USA. I'm going to put a few walnuts on here. I also recommend having just one Brazil nut per day. A beautiful bowl of joy. Now, this is the point, so I would just want to point out and say, this is sugar-free yogurt. The only sugar in here is from half of an apple. People are really used to having all different kinds of yogurts that have sugar and jams and fruit and dried fruit. No. We want to make sure that we are not eating a lot of sugar during the day. If you need this to be sweeter, if you have a bite of this and you decide that it's not sweet enough for you, put a few drops of stevia in there or some xylitol. Well, I'm going to go have this. I'm going to finish up what I'm doing and just make sure that I've sort of cleared out my day and then I'm ready to relax. Usually in the late afternoon, I like to get outside again, maybe go for a walk. If the weather's nice, I usually go for a swim, go to the gym, depending on the day. Today, I think I'm just going to hang out on the terrace, so I'll see you again for dinner prep. Hey guys, we're back in the kitchen again for, you guessed it, dinner time. So for dinner tonight, we are having broccoli, lots of vitamins, and broccoli also has a compound called DIM, which is actually really good for your thyroid, especially if it's cooked. It's not so great for your thyroid if it isn't cooked. So make sure when you have cruciferous vegetables, especially if you have a thyroid issue, that you always cook them. Lightly steaming them is fine too. And that counts for the kale that you put in your smoothie too. If you have a thyroid issue, I would definitely recommend lightly steaming your kale or your spinach before you put it in a smoothie. We're also gonna have a sweet potato. I don't really do a lot of carbs besides the carbs that are in vegetables, but I do love me a good sweet potato. It's my favorite of the starchy vegetables. So what we're gonna be doing with the sweet potato is we're actually gonna be making a sweet potato hash. And then I also have a piece of wild caught fresh salmon. You wanna make sure that you are not eating farmed salmon, because we talked a lot in this masterclass about omega-3s versus omega-6s. Omega-6s are pro-inflammatory, which means that they inspire inflammation throughout the body. And the thing is that salmon, by its nature, is actually high in omega-3s, the ones that are really good for your body, but the omega-6s make their way into the factory farm salmon, and it's because of the way that it's because of the food that the salmon eats. So the salmon are eating things like soybeans and grains, things that salmon are not supposed to eat at all. The food already has a lot of omega-6s in it, and therefore the factory farmed fish, the fish farmed fish, is not very good for you. So we're having a wild caught Alaskan salmon tonight. But first I'm gonna make a sweet potato hash. Let's start off by peeling this monster of a sweet potato. I'm just eating by myself tonight, so I don't have to cook for a lot of people. I'm gonna boil it up. I already have the kettles boiled, and I'm gonna boil it in this pan until the pieces are pretty soft. It's probably gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes. But I'm gonna show you the prep as the prep is happening. So it looks like my potatoes are done. I'm actually just gonna take these over and drain them. And to make the hash, I'm gonna fry them in just a little bit of coconut oil. Just a little splash here. And I'll just pour the potatoes right in there. You could put lots of things in your hash. You could actually put the leftover vegetables from our lunch that we had today. You can throw them right in there. Onion, garlic. That's something I haven't cooked with at all today, is onion or garlic. Just putting a little bit of Himalayan sea salt. So you may notice that I don't use a lot of pepper, and that's because peppercorns can sometimes have a lot of mold in them, and so I try to limit my exposure to toxic mold. The spices I'll tell you that I do cook with a lot are cayenne pepper, cumin, curry. I like really warming spices, turmeric, garam masala, I love, and even cooking with cinnamon for savory foods, like things like stews, tomato-based stews. I also use a lot of fresh herbs. I love rosemary, parsley is great, cilantro or coriander, depending on where you're from. So something that I use a lot too that I wanted to share with you, and I guess dinner time is the best time to share that, is before my lunch and before my dinner, I take a multi-digestive enzyme. This one is just from Holland & Barrett. It's pretty simple. It has amylase, hydrochloride, bromelain, lipase, oil, peppermint, and papain. So these are a few different digestive enzymes that are going to help you break down things like proteins and fats and carbohydrates. I take it especially when I'm going to have a protein, like a animal-based protein, like a fish or meat, because I find that sometimes I don't digest them as well as I would like to. Meaning that I might get a bloaty tummy or feel a little bit gassy or just kind of have an upset stomach. It's not all the time, but I also take it because it helps my body to break down all of the different nutrients so that it can use them more immediately. Kind of just gives it, I recommend it for everybody. It will help you get the biggest bang for your buck with these nutritional, really good meals that we're cooking here. What would be good in this hash would be a bit of cayenne pepper too, to just give it a little bit of spice. So we're gonna leave that a few more minutes before cooking the broccoli and the fish. For the drink that I'm gonna have with my meal, I'm actually just pouring myself some fizzy water. And I'm gonna use some lemon for the fish, but before I actually put on the fish, I'm just gonna squeeze about a quarter of this, maybe a third of this lemon into my water. I just like my sweet potato hash to go a little bit golden on the outside. And this is pretty much ready, so I'm gonna put some on my plate. And I've got a bit left. Got a bit left here since I'm cooking for one. So I'm actually going to put it in my bowl with my excess vegetables from this afternoon for my lunch. And check it out, just like that. I've got a whole lunch or the beginning of dinner for tomorrow, just from my lunch and my dinner. So I just want to encourage you to be creative about the way that you're cooking and err on the side of making too much, because you can always use it, especially with vegetables. You can always use it for a scramble with scrambled eggs the next day, with poached eggs. You can put some tinned mackerel, tinned sardines, like an oily fish. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a pretty big knob of butter in here. It's the same frying pan that I just used to make the sweet potato hash. Ooh, just found a rogue piece of sweet potato. So as you can see, I like to eat a lot when I'm cooking. Sometimes to my own detriment, because when I sit down to eat, I'm not always hungry because I've been munching away. Again, I'm using the same grass-fed butter like I made with the butter coffee. So we've had a lot of really good fats today. The good fats being, we've had grass-fed butter, extra virgin coconut oil, a few nuts and seeds, and we had a whole avocado. Okay, I think that's hot enough. So I'm actually gonna cook my fish and my broccoli. I'm gonna put my salmon in the pan, skin side down. Like I said, salmon is amazing for omega-3s, and omega-3s are amazing for your hormones, for your fertility, for your brain, for pretty much your nervous system, everything in your body. So I've got the fish going on one side. I'm just gonna push that to the side. I'm actually going to toss my broccoli around the fish. You can do your broccoli however you like. You could steam it, you can boil it, but I like my broccoli a little bit stir-fried. I like it where it's still a little bit crunchy. And like I said, if you have thyroid issues, hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism, you're going to make sure that when you have cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, like kale, like cauliflower, that you're not eating them raw. And just because it's dinner, I'm going to give these guys a little bit of salt too. And while I'm waiting here, I'm going to take one of my digestive enzymes. You can take this before you eat or you can take it after you eat, but I quite like taking it before, just because I'm usually sitting here cooking dinner. And afterwards, I am not convinced that I'm going to take it, that I'll remember. I told you I'm not very good at swallowing pills, and I've never taken a pill on camera before. Apologies for the light isn't very great right now, but it's the end of the night. And as you can see that it's getting dark outside. I usually cook my salmon for about 4 or 5 minutes on the skin side. I can see already that it's starting to go a lighter pink on the bottom. And then after about 4 or 5 minutes, I'll turn it over and I'll do this side, the inside, for a few more minutes. I actually like this part, this top part, to be a little bit crispier. But not burnt though. You never want to burn your food, because once something burns, it starts to oxidize. And again, just like we were talking about earlier, you get a lot of free radicals. And free radicals do all kinds of damage in your body. And that's why we take antioxidants like NAC plus vitamin C, which makes a form of glutathione. This is looking good. This is a big steak. It's a lot of food for one person. Usually I cook for two, but tonight I'm flying solo. I like when my broccoli gets just a tiny bit brown. This broccoli is about done. The fish still needs a little bit, so I'm going to put the broccoli on my plate. I think something that would be really nice to put on the fish or the broccoli is coconut aminos. Liquid aminos. I think Bragg's does a good version of the liquid aminos. Oops. Yeah, this is looking good. You want to make sure that your fish flakes. That means it's done. So usually it's about getting a fork and just kind of scraping the meat lightly and making sure that it flakes off. This just needs 30 more seconds and then it's done. The sweet potato hash is so good. It's so tasty when you cook it with coconut oil. So what about you? Are you, do you eat with a knife and a fork? Or do you just eat with a fork? Same. I was raised just eating with a fork. But my partner is British and I spent a lot of time living in Europe, and so everybody here eats with a knife and a fork. And now it depends on whether I'm by myself. So tonight I'm by myself, I'm just going to give myself a fork. If I was with friends or if I was with my partner, then I would be giving everybody a knife and a fork and eating with both. All right, I think my fish is done. Check that out. It's looking pretty yummy. It's actually kind of two pieces. I have a feeling like this is going to be tomorrow's meal as well. Stick it on there. And I'm going to come over and show you a beautiful plate. So we've got a big fillet of salmon, some broccoli, and sweet potato hash, and some fizzy water. I'm going to go enjoy this now.